Garrett Nussmeier, Lenora Sellers, Arch Manning, and Jake Merklinger. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC, a little crossover edition with our buddy Eric Cain, Locked On Vols, joining us. And look, thanks for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to Every Day, so we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And a reminder, today's episode brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege, and get $20 off your first purchase. Eric Cain of Locked On Vols joining us here. Locked On SEC, Locked On Vols, and Eric, man, it's been a lot to talk about the last 72 hours. Take us through the timeline of how all this kind of transpired from your point of view. I talked to you Saturday morning as you were heading to the orange and white spring game, and news was kind of spreading. I liked one of the guys tweeted out that he was on campus and interviewed a fan and said, "Hey, what are you looking forward to most?" And the fan said, seeing the throws that Nico Iamaleava is going to make. And you realize not everybody's on Twitter. Not everybody's on social media 24/7. So some people just didn't even know that Nico wasn't going to be there at the spring game. But take us through the timeline of how all this transpired through your eyes.
Yeah, just think about this. If you're not on social media there and you were going to the spring game, like there was no way to know because the news hadn't, there's not a fresh newscast at 11 a.m., right? And there's not a newspaper clipping that, that early in the day. So, yeah, it's kind of wild. I did see that tweet you're referencing, and I'm just like, oh, man, shaking my head. It was wild, man. I mean, you always hear stuff. You always hear whispers. Always, like in this industry. And, you heard a lot about Nico, but what actually transpired, I would never thought was going to happen. I mean, you saw Pete Nakos's, report on Thursday, and then you saw all the backlash and, from Nico's camp and, saying that that's not incorrect, that's incorrect, that's incorrect. And you're kind of sitting here like, well, I mean, like I knew for a fact, like his report was not incorrect, but it's like, it kind of seems like this is going to take care of itself, right? Well, doesn't show up to practice on Friday morning. And this is after on Thursday night, he's at Joey Halsey's house, his quarterback coach and OC, and they were having a position group get together. And I mean, he was there until I don't know what time, but he was there having dinner. I mean, there's a picture. I saw it. And then he doesn't show up to practice Friday morning. So at that point, it's like, it's over. It's done. No communication. Tennessee couldn't get a hold of him or anything. And, Josh Heupel pretty much said on Saturday after the Orange and White game, that's when he knew, like, this is done. This is over with. And then you had a couple of the reports from Chris Lowe of ESPN come out and, reporting what the Nico's camp wants in terms of money and dollar figure. And it's just astonishing. And how there's growing frustration with some of the players and admin and all this. And then it's spiraling at this point. And then, Saturday morning, Pete Thamel, puts the nail in the coffin. Boom, it's done. And it's wild, man. And it's obviously huge news for Tennessee. It's huge news for college football. I think Nico is a good kid. I think there's a lot of people around him that, are helping in this regard. But at the end of the day, you lift your teammates high and dry. And I think that's the frustrating part, where the frustration is for Nico and for Josh Heupel. I think Heupel at the end of the day understands where college football is now. He's not happy about it, but you left your teammates high and dry Friday morning, and that's just, all right, we're out, we're moving on. And that's kind of where Tennessee is.
Take me back through his recruitment, because I seem to remember, I mean, it was like March, I want to say, 2022 when he committed to Tennessee. And I mean, were there any, from what you heard, like any rumblings of tough discussions? I mean, I remember the news came out when he signed with Tennessee that, he's going to get in this big fat NIL deal and all this, but that was kind of becoming the norm across college football. But were there any signs of like he was a pain in the butt to deal with, or his parents or his handler or whoever?
No, I mean, not that I remember. And I do want to make it a point. Like, I mean, I'm not in the meeting room. I'm not on the practice field every day, so I'm not trying to act like I am here. But, for the most part, Nico was a nice, courteous kid. I think he was here. I think he was liked by his teammates. I think he worked hard. I think he was learning and trying to be a leader. Obviously, leaders don't do what he pulled, so I get that. But in all intents and purposes, I mean, like Nico was, not a bad person to be around. And That's why, like, a lot of this, you kind of hate it for the player, but at the end of the day, again, he didn't show up to practice. But during his recruitment, no, I mean, you knew that he was big time, because he had an entourage, and he lived in California, and he was coming to Tennessee games and coming to Tennessee junior days. It's like, man, like that, what a trip. But I mean, he wasn't just coming here. I mean, he was going all over the place, right? And I just remember him being a really, really big deal. And also, I respected the heck out of Tennessee, because that class, which fun exercise for you, and I'm sure you've already done it, that quarterback class, I've done it several times, even before Nico's departure. That quarterback class, Arch Manning is the only one that's still there at the place that he signed, right? As my voice is cracking, it's been a long couple of days.
And that's probably the one, if you'd have said, who's going to move from this class, people probably would have guessed, oh, Arch isn't going to stay put at Texas.
Yeah.
Like that would have been the one that you would have guessed would have moved.
Yeah, but Tennessee channeled in. They sought him. They wanted him. They channeled in. They got it done, and they got it done in March. And then he kind of helped build everything around him. But no, I didn't see any signs back then, but I did know that he was a big deal because, again, he had an entourage wherever he went.
Yeah, it is funny. Being from South Beach, California, like just outside LA.
Long Beach, yeah.
Or Long Beach, yeah. Palm trees everywhere and, riding the waves and all that, to the Smoky Mountains. Like, it had to be a little bit of a culture change and a little bit of a shock for him and his folks. But all right, so we turn the page. We'll circle back to Nico in a little bit, but the big question now is, where does Tennessee go? I mean, the spring game just ended. It's the middle of April. We are going into the summer months. This thing is either you're staying in house or you're bringing in somebody else to help compete. Where does Tennessee go? And I guess the big question, Eric, is Jake Merklinger. Is he ready to take over the reins as an SEC quarterback? He's 19 years old. He'll be 20 the week the season starts. But is he a guy that can take on this job?
It's when you need to go out and make the old call to Joe Flacco. It's like, hey, man, you want to come back? Or Josh McCown. Hey, come on now. Come on. We need you. Chad Henne. No, I mean, Tennessee absolutely has to get another quarterback. No choice. And Josh Heupel said that on Saturday. I mean, you have two scholarship quarterbacks. And Tennessee played with two scholarship quarterbacks a couple years ago, but your third was Gaston Moore, who, knew this offense better, aside from Joey Halsey and Josh Heupel, it was him. So you've got to have two. I mean, you have no experience and you have no veterans, and you only have two of them. So two scholarship quarterbacks. Tennessee's going to have to bring a guy in. Who's going to be in the portal this time? You and I were talking off air. You're seeing this guy jump in and this guy reported going to jump in. It's going to be moving the next couple of days. It's kind of fun and exciting. But there's not going to be any Nico Iamaleavas out there. Nobody better than him. Nobody as high profile as him. Nobody probably as experienced to the level of a college football playoff starting quarterback. I mean, it's April the 15th, man. Like, you do not want to lose your starting quarterback on April the 15th, but that's where Tennessee is. I'm intrigued to see kind of who they're going to get, but they will get somebody. In a perfect world, he comes in and he has a legit chance to compete and work with Jake Merklinger and push him and, see if they can win that job. But again, at worst case scenario, you just got to get a body. So we'll see who Tennessee, is after, and we'll see what names jump in over the next couple of days.
So answer the first question. Is Jake Merklinger, if he's the guy, can he, what's Tennessee's record? What's the ceiling and what's the floor if they throw Merklinger out there and he's the guy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he's ready. He's a redshirt freshman. He had a fantastic spring, really good spring, and this is before Nico. So I'm not just saying this. I mean, go back and read my practice reports. He's worked on his throwing mechanics and everything, and he's made some strides. And I think a lot of oh, what a picture there! Look at the eyes. I think a lot. And Joey Halsey looks about 80 years old behind him. What a picture that is. I think a lot of people are impressed with the improvements that he's made here in the spring. So having said all that, though, I mean, I wouldn't say that you want to give him the keys. I think Tennessee would obviously have to rely on a defense, a run game, just like it did last year with Nico, and just let him kind of manage things and let him kind of grow up on the job. He's got the tools. He's got some tools, but he just doesn't have experience. And, that can hit you like a ton of bricks, your first, big snaps out there. So it's not a situation as we sit here on April the 15th that I would want to be in, but that might be the reality. And so if it is, he's going to have to grow up in a hurry.
And nothing against George McIntyre, but he looks like he needs about 8 Big Macs and 2 years in the weight room to get ready to play in the SEC. He's just frail. He needs time to develop and grow into his body. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I look at the two in-house quarterbacks, and it's like, in a perfect world, both those guys were sitting this year. Like Nico was supposed to be the guy. So that's where, to your point, they got to go get a portal guy. Coming up next, we will jump into some names that are in the portal. Any of them appeal to Eric Cain and the Tennessee fan base? We'll discuss that next. Roll along here, Locked On SEC, Locked On Vols, little crossover edition. And Eric, some names that are in the portal. I'll just run through a few of them, and you just tell me, scale of 1 to 10, do you like the names at all? And the first one I'll throw at you is a name that obviously had some drama when he signed with Florida, ended up at Arizona State.
No,
Arizona State,
pass.
Ended up at Georgia this past year. Jaden Rashada. And there's been some discrepancy too. Some folks saying, I think he got in the portal in the first portal cycle, right? So I think if he were to transfer to an SEC school, he would be eligible, because I think it's only if you're in the spring portal transferring to another SEC school. I don't know. I can't get clarity on that. But regardless if he's eligible or not, like you're out on Jaden Rashada altogether.
Yeah, I didn't know that he jumped in the first cycle. So why didn't he have a team yet? What's he doing? Is he at Georgia right now taking classes?
I have no idea. I mean,
anyway, yeah, to your point, I'm out. You can't go, and again, SEC to SEC, so he would have had to have been in the portal before, but you can't go from how this ended with Nico to go with Jaden Rashada. And arguably, if there's not a bigger NIL story than Nico, it's him. And so, like, you can't do that. So, no, I'm out.
Yeah, this was January 5th. It said Rashada plans to file the paperwork required to enter the portal. So, I don't know. Did he miss that window? The timelines all skew into one another. Yeah. All right, well, some other names. You got Aiden Glover, who was a freshman at Mizzou, who hit the portal. For some reason, some of the rankings are very high on him. I don't know much about him. There's Iowa quarterback James Reeser. And then two guys who just entered the portal this past week. UCF quarterback Dylan Risk, who played for Gus Malzahn and, had a little bit of playing time. And then Trevor Jackson, quarterback at FSU. Again, none of these names are sexy. None of these names are like, oh my God, that's the starting quarterback that Josh Heupel needs. But like, any of those names interest Vol fans?
I mean, I don't know who those guys are. I mean, if I'm being honest, I mean, I know I've heard the names before, but I don't know anything about them. I haven't researched them yet, Gordy, because I'm still dealing with the aftermath of Nico thing. But I don't think those are real candidates, at least right now. We'll see. I mean, there is. It's hard and there might be. I mean, Tennessee's got some money, man. They got a lot more money now that Nico's not with them. They're gonna have some money. They can go out there and help and get somebody to come quarterback their team. But if I'm a sitting Power 4 starting quarterback, dude, why? Especially if I'm maybe a junior, like contract year, like why on earth am I leaving right now? You're putting yourself behind the 8-ball, learning a new system, trying to win the job, win your teammates. It doesn't make sense. What they need is they need a guy like Joe Milton, right? I mean, guy that's got some experience, maybe didn't win the job, whatever, sitting over there backing up at a Power 4, come on down. I mean, that's what he did in 2021. Last I heard before this recording, it could change by the time people listen to it. North Carolina was out on Nico because they're getting some other quarterback. Is Max Johnson on that roster at Carolina?
Yeah, that's their slated starter right now. So so as of this recording, two new names just went in the portal last night. There was Wake Forest quarterback Jeremy Hecklinski, who has 4 years of eligibility remaining, and then South Alabama quarterback Gio Lopez. And the rumor is Gio Lopez is heading to North Carolina, that Bill Belichick just likes him a lot. And so, by the way, this feels weird saying names, like saying Bill Belichick is going after this college quarterback. But if
Bill Belichick finding an underdog from a small school, no way, right?
But the thought is, if Gio Lopez goes to North Carolina and he's going to go win that job, Max Johnson could jump back in the portal and go somewhere else. And of course, Max Johnson, former starter at LSU, former starter at Texas A&M. My biggest problem with Max Johnson is he can't stay healthy. So, But look, the appeal to come, you mentioned like who's going to go in the portal at this point. To me, any of those established quarterbacks that want to, one, come get coached by Josh Heupel because his track record of working with quarterbacks is damn good, and two, I can't beat out Jake Merklinger and McIntyre. Like, yeah, like if I'm an established starter in one of those schools, absolutely, I think I can go beat one of those guys out, and I'm going to get great quarterback development with the coaching.
Yeah, you're right. And also I did my first segment of my Tuesday show about this as well. Like I saw Andy and Ari doing it over at On 3, and I'm like, oh, that's a good topic. I'm probably going to do that as well. But I got to thinking about it, talking with some buddies. I mean, like, I use the analogy keys to the Ferrari, right? And I understand Tennessee's wide receivers questions, offensive line questions. You lost Dylan Sams and all that. But, like, if you break down this roster, I mean, this is still a win-now roster. This is still a college football playoff roster. The defense is going to be good. The offensive line, in my opinion, is going to be better as long as there's not a fallout from Nico leaving, which I don't think there will be, but we'll see. Wide receivers, you need another body, but to be honest with you, Gordy, hard to be worse. Hard to be worse than you were last year. So my point is, like, this is still a very good roster. I was on a show the other day, and the guy said, is Tennessee punting on this team? And I almost laughed. I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, Tennessee can go win 8 games to Merklinger, in my opinion. That's a conversation for another day. I'm not going to have it right now. But, yes, it is an attractive destination to your point, if you want to go do that. And so, yeah, I can see that. It's just, in games the NFL, how much faith do you have in yourself to learn all that stuff in a short amount of time? Maybe you do. But, like, a Max Johnson name would intrigue me. Like, if a guy like that jumps in the portal, injuries galore, I hear you, but SEC starting experience, come on down. If you get hurt week 4, Jake Merklinger, let's go, buddy. I mean, that would be a really, really good situation. I'm not saying he's a Heisman Trophy candidate or anything, but based on what you have right now, like, sign me up for a former SEC starter. Yeah, please.
A couple quick hitters for you real quick. Any of these other names, these were message board rumor names, but I mean, I assume if Sam Levitt decided to say, hey, I'm leaving Arizona State for Tennessee, you'd sign me up for that?
Yes.
What about, I saw Avery Johnson, Kansas State, his name mentioned.
100%, yes.
Okay. Just put it out there. I mean, those guys, look, they're in great positions. Haynes King's name came up at Georgia Tech.
I actually brought up Haynes King on my podcast last week before all this stuff happened, and I kind of dogged him, and somebody jumped in my comments and said, I don't know ball, which is fair. So I guess I have to say no. It's funny. Haynes King was a one-time big-time Tennessee target when Jim Chaney was here. So Haynes King and the Tennessee fan base goes back. But anyway, like, he's got experience, right? And so, like, it'd be hard to turn down based off where you are now. But I would rather have those other guys compared to Haynes King.
Meanwhile, all the Aggie fans are like, look, Tennessee going after our scraps, all our former quarterbacks that are out there. Just a quick hitter. Who's to blame most in this? Is it Nico? Is it his dad? Is it his rep? Who's the most to blame in that group?
I mean, I want to say it's his paparazzi. I want to say it's his people around him. And I will say that. But again, end of the day, Nico did not show up to practice on Friday. Like, at some point, if you wanted to be there, which means to me he didn't want to be there. If you wanted to be there, you need to step up and be like, hey, this is not how we need to handle this. And again, I'm not gonna criticize the kid too much because he is a kid still. But I will say it's the people around him. But end of the day, it was Nico that didn't show up to practice, so it kind of the buck stops there.
Right. Okay. Moment of truth. Where does Nico end up? You've got. I've heard Tulane now. I mean, it's like. UCLA, I think, is still on the table, but, like, I don't know, man. This just starts to feel like he's running out of options because it's like USC they're off the table. North Carolina's off the table. I mean, all these teams are, like, saying, we're not interested.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm going to, whenever Nico commits, I'm going to talk about it on the show, and they're going to be like, oh, my gosh, we don't care. We don't care. You got to have finality to it, right? UCLA makes all the sense in the world, right? I mean, can UCLA afford him? That's the question. Will Nico be taking a discount this late? I mean, again, beggars can't be choosers at this point. If you want to play football, Tulane would be. I just gotta believe it to see it. Sounds like North Carolina's out. I know, like, Syracuse. Abundant storylines. Like, I saw a leaderboard. I think it was the odds. I guess FanDuel put it out there, where Nico's landing next. But I think UCLA makes too much sense. West Coast kid. It's you're not traveling cross country to see your kid play. You're just right down the state or right. I don't know where it is in relation to Orange County, but nonetheless, I would say UCLA is kind of what I'm expecting. But we'll see.
Yeah, UCLA's right there in the middle of Beverly Hills, so it's like 30-minute drive probably for his family to come see him.
That would make just too much sense. I don't know their quarterback situation, but I would be willing to bet Nico is probably better. So
and probably, like, go rewind all this, Eric. It's probably where he should have started. He probably just should have stayed home in California and went to one of those schools and stay out in the West Coast. I blame the Pac-12 for falling apart and becoming not a thing anymore. All right, last thing for you, Eric, as we look ahead to this team. I mean, you mentioned Tennessee and expectation. I mean, how are fans feeling right now? Are they kind of? I mean, is this rallying the troops and, hey, we love Heupel, we're on board with him no matter what here?
So right now it's we're Tennessee, we're unified. Hype will handle it the right way. Heck yeah, that's my coach. I don't want nobody leading my Vols other than him, and that's fair. He did a phenomenal job on Saturday. He did a great job. Like, he was kind, he was courteous. He thanked him because he did like Nico. They had a great relationship, but he said, "Hey, nobody's bigger than the program. That's me. We're gonna find a quarterback that can win. I've won with all different types of quarterbacks. I've lost quarterbacks in week 6. I've lost quarterbacks in the last day of training camp. I've lost quarterbacks in spring practice. And my guys have still gone on to win championships." And I'm like, "Ooh, okay." Like, he's got that fire, and he's so competitive, and that came out on Saturday. But, I think this fan base is pumped and is together right now, and that's awesome. But, depending on who you get at quarterback, you're going to drop a game next year you probably wouldn't have, or whatever the case is. Hopefully that energy stays, because I do think Tennessee did the right thing, and I think a lot of college football agrees. I think Tennessee, full circle moment, he was the poster child for NIL. Maybe he's the course corrector, and I think a lot of people are on Tennessee's side right now, but still doesn't erase. You lost your starting quarterback on April the 12th. Where do you go from here? We'll see, and that's another exciting chapter of the story.
Yeah, they spent 3 years trying to get this defense back on track, and now they got to figure out the quarterback. I mean, that's, it's like you can't just be clicking on all cylinders at one time with everything. He is Eric Cain, Locked On Vols, Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC, and we'll have more coming up right after this.